Call to order. Good evening and welcome to your City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 16th, 2020, and it's 7 p.m. Regular meetings are held on the first and third Tuesday of each month in the council chambers at City Hall. City Clerk Gomez, please have roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Rains.
Present.
Councilmember Jennings.
Here.
Councilmember Genoway.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Minigar.
Present.
And Mayor Davies.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Great. At this time, I would like to have Councilmember Rains provide the invocation. We'll follow it by Mayor Pro Tem Minigar with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Bow with me. Lord, we remember today that your intentions for our lives is for good. They may be radically different than what we hoped for or expected, but nonetheless, they are for good. You're the light that puts out our darkness and are abundantly present in our lives. Let us open and be willing to relinquish our plans so we may see your light and hear your guidance. We thank you for being the shield in all who are afflicted and afraid, and we take refuge in knowing your intentions are good. Although we're not always shielded from the difficulties in life, we have peace and hope, knowing we are always protected from the dangers and troubles beyond our strength. May your grace lead us in our decisions tonight as we commit to your goodness and the betterment of our community. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the greatest country on the face of the earth and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to public communications. Any person wishing to address the City Council will need to complete and present a gold-colored request to speak form from the City Clerk, and they're up there on the counter. These forms are available on the counter that is located over by that very handsome gentleman standing up there. Phil. Please be aware that the time limit will be 3 minutes for each person to speak. To allow equal time for speakers, minutes may not be given to another speaker. You may have another person read your written statement. City Clerk Gomez, are there any more request forms at this time?
No, Mayor, just the ones I gave.
Great. All right, if we could have Scott Elvey come up, please state your name and your address.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. Pleasure to be here. Scott Alvey, 30111 Suite A, Crown Valley Parkway, representing the Laguna Niguel Chamber of Commerce. Just a very simple statement that the Board of Directors of the Chamber voted on unanimously at our board meeting last week, and I would like to read it to you at this time. The Laguna Niguel Chamber of Commerce acknowledges that the death of George Floyd was an injustice to him, his family, and the African American community. The Laguna Niguel Chamber of Commerce does not support defunding or moving allocated funds away from our city's public safety. We fully trust the city and the Sheriff's Department of Orange County to make the right decisions when it comes to the protection of our homes, parks, and businesses. It is the Chamber's responsibility and mission to support the business community and oppose policies and activities that will negatively affect the health of the city's business community and its residents. And it's our position that public safety is heavily considered when companies decide to do business in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Althea Gerver. Hi.
Hi. Althea Guevara, 23732 Hillhurst Drive, Laguna Niguel. Good evening. Today I'd like to address some issues which I feel the city has neglected. First, the murder of George Floyd at the hands of a white police officer. If you go on the city's website or social media pages, you'll see a brief press statement from our Mayor Lori Davies condemning this tragedy. This was 2 weeks ago. However, you will fail to find any resources for the Black community or other minorities within this community who experience racism within this city, or any extensive information on how the Orange County Sheriff's Department works to address the glaring issue of police brutality. Instead, the statement offers a placating factoid. OCSD sheriffs are diligently trained to use de-escalation strategies. The OCSD posted a similarly disappointing infographic which discusses the way that they they train officers. I would like to remind the City Council and the OCSD that citizens will hold you accountable and that we understand the difference between words and actions. Another aspect of your post that I would like to address is the acknowledgement of a racist local counter-protester who is arrested by OCSD. Despite public demand for more information on the fate of this individual and what sort of charges have been brought against him, both the city and the OCSD have remained silent. If there is an ongoing investigation and public comment cannot be made, this is understandable, but no such confirmation was given to the concerned residents of this city, who are left wondering just how much people like this man can get away with under the noses of those who sit before me today. I'd like to reiterate, words versus actions. I'm not sure what sort of response to police brutality and systemic racism I expected from a city which has the words business and financial responsibility in its mission statement and vision. However, I demand better. Ironically, one of the agenda items which the council is approving today is the cost of the contract within the OCSD. $15 million is once again going to the Orange County Sheriff's Department to oversee a city of barely 66,000. When I first learned this number, I was in disbelief. Surely this is an abnormal, obese amount. Imagine my surprise when I found an analysis for the 13 cities which contract with OCSD for their police force. And I learned that Laguna Niguel's contract cost per capita is actually below the average for these cities. I hope you're familiar with this analysis, which was requested by the cities themselves in an effort to find ways to maximize the cost effectiveness of these contracts. The $15 million contract this year is a whopping $6,000 less than last year, for whatever that's worth. The OCSD Sheriff Coroner Don Barnes also originally suggested the creation of a city manager's technical advisory committee to help oversee the cost efficiency, an idea which, to my knowledge, was never materialized. Words versus actions. According to the 2010 census, Laguna Niguel had an 80% white population, which I wager would say those numbers are similar today. It is easy for the city to be insulated from issues which seemingly do not affect it, but I ask that you remember the minorities of this community. I'm not here to place blame or ask for handouts. I ask for accountability and human decency. I leave you with these questions. What meaningful resources is the city providing to its essential minority communities? What is being done to ensure that the future of the city is more inclusive and diverse? Thank you. Black Lives Matter.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. We have John Ulrich.
Hi, John Ulrich. I live at 30412 Northampton, up the hill here. I just want to say something about how we should support our police services and not defund them or move any funds away from them. I've been here for 15 years, and all my interactions with Matt and his folks have been stellar. You just get to know them. We have one of the lowest crime rates in the whole country, much less California. There's all that. So anybody who really wants to know what goes on with the police services and get involved with them, go do coffee with a cop, get to know them. Get involved with Citizens Academy, where you go through 14 weeks or so and understand everything these officers go through. It's a tough job, but I appreciate everything they do. I'm happy to live in this wonderful city, and they play a big part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any more public communications?
No, Mayor, that was the last one.
Public communications are now closed. Consent calendar. Let's see here. Items 1 through 15. Are there any items that need to be pulled for comment or discussion?
Okay, Mayor Davies, I will be abstaining on item number 6, which is the notice of completion for the Alicia Parkway project due to the proximity to my residence.
Items 9 and 10.
None for me.
Nothing? Councilman Raines? Okay, great.
Move the balance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstain? Any oppose? Items moved. Let's move on to item number 9, Mayor Pro Tem Miniger.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a quick question for our Director of Public Works. Typically on projects and contracts, I do see 10 to 15% contingency clause. How come we have 20% on this project contract?
Thank you for your question, Council Member, Mayor Pro Tem Miniger. In the work that we do for the maintenance activities around our parks, there is a bit of a more unpredictable nature when things get broken, when they fail, and when they need repairs, unlike our capital improvement projects that have a 10% contingency where the amount of unknowns are more finite. Additionally, reviewing back when the city was modifying the purchasing program back in 2017. This was a recommendation that came out of the IBNA as well at that time. In finding that recommendation, I was trying to bring more of our maintenance contracts in line with those recommendations.
And a second question, because of what may happen due to the potential negative ramification of COVID-19 in the fall or winter, are we able to get some discounts in the event that we are going to be providing less services, or the contractor would be rendering less services?
That is a very good question. And again, thank you for asking. For the past 2 months, myself and my staff have been negotiating with all of our vendors to realize cost savings and streamline our contracts, not just for future contracts, but the contracts that we're currently overseeing and implementing for our maintenance services. So yes, they've all been negotiated and there's been cost savings realized across the board.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to move the item.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion moved. Item number 10, Mayor Pro Tem Miniger.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 2 questions for our police chief. The first one is in reference to the, I've been looking at the budget line items for deputy sheriff for commercial vehicle enforcement, and I've been under the impression that typically we share that officer with the neighboring city of Mission Viejo, and we allocate the funding 50-50 between the 2 cities. Then I saw the cost for 1 full officer. So would you please elaborate on that?
Yes. Last year's contract, Mission Viejo no longer wanted to pursue the commercial enforcement vehicle. So what we did was we thought outside the box a little bit and took the whole position on, with giving half back to the city and incorporating that with an overtime of 2 days a week as opposed to the 4 days, which would be full time. So the city is compensated for half the position, and that brings that total contract number down. You'll see that reflected in the vacancy credit number on your budget. But we still only have half that position, and that's what we do. We man that half the time, and the other half comes back to the city within the budget.
Very good. Well taken. Would you please elaborate on PVC utilization?
You talk about PVS? So that's our patrol video system. So every unit that we have, every vehicle has a camera fixed to it. Deputies have to use that PVS system every time they contact a citizen. Their audio microphone is connected to their body, so they carry that with them. So even if they're on the side of the vehicle or behind the vehicle, the audio still records. That is the current system that we have and have had for many, many years. They have tested body cams. In fact, this city tested them themselves. They were beta tested within the city. They just haven't been rolled out yet. So we currently have the PVS system. We've had it for many, many years, and we continue to utilize that system. So each contact is recorded.
Very good. Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion to move the item.
I'd like to make a comment.
Oh.
Councilmember Raines, and I'll go to Jen White.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I just want to share a little bit, because this has obviously been something that's been important. And I wanted to say, when we decide to move into a community, there's a few things we ask ourselves. We say, how are the schools? How's the safety of the community? Do they have a quality of life, access to healthcare? As we embark upon this time in our fiscal year and making decisions about how we invest in our community, I'm reminded that Laguna Niguel is an incredible haven for its residents. During my childhood, I was not fortunate enough to live in a beautiful community like Laguna Niguel. In fact, I was raised in an immigrant minority community that still ranks today in the 100 most dangerous cities to live in the United States. In contrast to my hometown, with approximately the same population of Laguna Niguel, your chance of being a victim of a crime in Laguna Niguel is 1 in 818. My childhood hometown is 1 in 16. They spend 20% more on police services, and yet we are doing a much better job here in Laguna Niguel of keeping our community safe. By definition, police officers are the civil force of a local government, responsible for the prevention and detection of crime and the maintenance of public order. Our department has done an outstanding job serving our community and ranking us as one of the safest cities to live in California. Our current budget does not increase our department's workforce. It is the direct reflection of our County Board of Supervisors' decision to increase spending for sheriff contracts in Orange County. For us to reduce this spending, we would be reducing the officers on our force, which in turn reduces the services to public safety in our community. Such action would be irresponsible in moving our community forward safely. The Laguna Niguel strategic plan specifically supports public safety as a priority. I support approving our department's contract for the 2020-21 fiscal year. With that, I'll move the item.
Okay. I'd like to echo Councilmember Rain's comments, but also I want to be sure that our community understands there's a community conversation taking place in our immediate community and in the national community regarding funding for law enforcement. This budget, this contract that we will be approving tonight is to keep the level of service the same in Laguna Niguel as it has been in the past year. So we are not expanding the department, expanding what we're doing. We're keeping the level of service the same for the safety of our community and all of our residents. There's an increased cost. That cost per hour, per deputy, per unit of service is determined at the county level, not at the city level. And what we contract for is to have so many deputies in certain positions. So we are not cutting services. I want to be sure our residents understand that because they love our community and the law enforcement services and the first responder services that are provided, but we are keeping them level as to what they have been in the past. And I greatly appreciate the work that Chief McDaniel has done. I know I have discussed it with him and with City Manager Letourneau on creating efficiencies within the department so that we do get the most for our dollar here in Laguna Niguel. I won't say as opposed to other cities, but I think we do. So, but I just want to assure that our residents that we are keeping the level of services the same as they have come to rely on in the past. Thank you, Mayor. And with that, I will cede to my other council members who wanted to make the motion.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's important that we recall just 12 short months ago, we heard from thousands, if not tens of thousands, but at least thousands of residents and businesses and interested parties in this city and asked them the very critical question of what's important to you. And without exception, they all said public safety. And as part of our strategic planning last year, we set forth a priority that public safety will always be the #1 priority in this city. And nothing's changed about that. Frankly, I think some cities get this very wrong. And I think and we would all nod our heads and say that there are those in every profession that get it wrong. But in Laguna Niguel, I have gotten the privilege of getting to know these men and women over my last 8 years in public life here, but also out of my 25 years of being a resident in this city. And I can tell you that we do something different here. It is better here. We get along. It's been my privilege as a city council member to attend countless, probably hundreds of meetings with these officers as they interact with all sorts of community events, of all different types. I've done ride-alongs with them. I understand them. And I can tell you without exception, they're some of the most exceptional people I've ever met. And they do things that, thank God that they do, because in the still of the night, we all need somebody to call. And these are the ones that are at the end of our phone. It costs a lot. If you break down the budget, it's easy to look at the total numbers and think, well, my goodness, that's a lot of money. Break it down. Salaries are expensive, and we have a lot of officers. In many cities around us for the last 4 years, they've been cutting police forces because they've had budget issues. We've not had that concern, and our police force remains strong. And indeed, we've added officers to this with the help of this council. I feel with absolute certainty that we are one of the safest cities in the nation. The FBI ranks us so year after year. And because of that, we know that it's not just our police services because they're doing everything they can, but it's also our residents. And I got an email from somebody today said, you need to recognize what the residents are doing. And why aren't you focusing on the residents? Well, the truth is I am. because the relationship between the police and our residents and our business are better than anywhere else I've ever been or anywhere else I've ever heard of. And I'll put that against anybody that wants to compare. It is the best, and that's not on accident. It's because of great leadership from not only the city, but also the sheriff and the chief that's been assigned to us. And Matt, I just want to tell you personally, fantastic job, and thank you to you and your officers on behalf of the city. You know, I get it. Money is tough. And people want to use money as a weapon in this argument, but I'm not putting the residents of this city at any risk because of that argument. I'd much rather have a more intellectual, more furtive conversation about things that we can do if things need to be done, and have that discussion in the cool light of the safety that we're paying so dearly to have before us today. So I heartily support this contract. It is, frankly, by the way, one of the best contracts we've had since I've been on city council. Year over year, these dollars keep climbing up some, and this is one of those years where we didn't have that increase year over year, which is truly something. So I appreciate that, by the way, for whoever was able to pull that off at the county and the sheriff. But it is still a lot of money. It's the highest budget item we have in our budget. So when we're approving a budget, we start here and everything else flows out from that. We've had a very difficult year, as every city, every person in this nation, and practically the world has had. It financially hurts. It's kicking everyone in the gut, and it's no different for city government. So when we have massive budget cuts, we have to decide where the money's going to be cut from. Our budget tonight reflects that. But what it doesn't reflect is us wavering one iota from the public safety that we know you want, and from the community relationship that I'm certain that you deserve. So I want to say thank you, and I want to say I support this notion, and thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to say a couple of notes. We've had incredible police services here. We have safest city. I think we're the 9th safest city in California. We're rated one of the top throughout the nation. And some of those reasons are officers. Just so you know, according to Americans Police Beat, the average response time for an emergency call is 10 minutes. Atlanta has the worst response time with 11 to 12 minutes, and Nashville comes in at a lightning speed of 9 minutes. We're at 4.50, 4 minutes, not even 5 minutes for response time. And you think about that. I mean, that could be someone responding to a child that needs CPR because they're drowning. That could be for a husband that's having a heart attack. That could be a son that tried to commit suicide, and they're there to help. I mean, that's what you pay for. You're paying for the safety of your family. And that's also what brings businesses. You talk about that we are blessed to have good finances here. But good finances because people come to a place they feel safe. Businesses go ahead and open up businesses because they feel safe. That ties in together. So to me, that's really important. And also, we are a contract city. So there are other cities out there that actually have their own police forces. We save 25 to 30% by actually going through the contract with the sheriffs compared to other cities. So that's something that we've always been very proud of doing. And so I'll go ahead and take a motion. Fred, got a motion?
Made it.
Initially, I made it. I was
Yes,
the first.
go ahead. Yes, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
And
So
I'll
I have
second.
All right, I made the motion again.
From, Mayor Pro Tem and a second from Councilmember Raines. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passed. All right, that's going to bring us to discussion item. Our next discussion item, number 1, is the adoption of the fiscal year 2020-2021 operating and capital budget. Finance Director Hendrickson, please provide a staff report.
Here we go. So good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Thank you for having me back here tonight as we go through the second and final presentation on next year's budget. On May 26th, we held a study session to go through the budget. This allowed for public comment and for city staff to make any edits to the final version tonight. Tonight's slideshow is an abbreviated version of the study session presentation. No substantive changes occurred in the budget book since the study session. Minor edits do include formatting, coloring, updating descriptions, and adjustments to the appendix. The operating budget is still balanced. These numbers have not changed. We project general fund operating revenues to be $40.89 million and operating expenses to be $40.69 million, a difference of $200,000. However, we do have 3 general fund capital projects, which total $4.2 million, and this will result in the projected use of reserves of $4 million. Of the $40.89 million for the general fund revenue next year, property tax and sales tax make up 82% of that. We took a conservative approach to estimating property tax and kept the estimate on par with the current fiscal year. In most normal budget years, it's safe to assume a 2 to 3% increase in property tax. As for sales taxes, we estimate to receive $10.61 million next year. This estimate comes from HDL, the city's sales tax consultant. After the study session, we reached out to them to confirm the validity of this estimate, and they confirmed it is still current and they stand behind their analysis. New quarterly data from the state will be released soon, and the city expects an update in late July. Here we go. On this slide, you can see a 4-year general fund revenue historical trend. It's broken out into 4 sources of revenue, and the rest is lumped together in the other category. This includes other taxes, interest income, fines and forfeitures, and parks and recreation revenues. You can see the decline year over year. From just last year, general fund revenues have dropped $2.8 million, and you can find a detailed breakdown of all general fund revenues on page 13 of the budget book. Due to the precipitous drop in revenue, the city had to take the following actions to reduce spending. This includes the voluntary 5% reduction for the city manager's salary, the voluntary deferral of all merit increases, and the planned 2.5% salary increase for the department heads and the other unions you've agreed to tonight, reduction of 7 vehicles in the city's fleet, a furlough of 106 part-time employees, reduction of 7 full-time employees from 69 down to 62, reduced contractual services across the whole city, and the cancellation of some of the city-sponsored events for next year. As I've mentioned, the operating budget is $40.69 million, and the capital budget is $4.2 million, which will equal a total general fund spending of $44.89 million. This pie chart is a useful illustration of where your general fund dollars are going. It represents the council's priorities, with the bulk of money going towards public safety and public works. The full expenditure summary is found on page 11 of your budget book. To reiterate, these percentages have not changed since the budget study session. That will leave us at June 30th, 2020 with a fund balance of $35.1 million. Next year, we plan to bring in $40.9 million. Operating expenditures will be 40.7, capital expenditures will be 4.2, and that will eventually end up leaving us with $31.1 million projection at the end of next year. To note, our reserve policy has a 50% of an annual operating expenditures ratio to achieve. And as of this calculation, the city has achieved a 76% ratio. So we are financially stable from that aspect. Similar to the operating budget, there have been no changes to the capital budget since the study session. Next year, we plan to fund 9 projects totaling $7.2 million. The bulk of these funds are going towards finishing the Crown Valley Park Community Center and various street improvements. That concludes my presentation on the operating and capital budget for next year. As a next step, staff is committed to quarterly reviews of the budget next fiscal year. This will allow for prudent oversight and involvement with the City Council on these budgetary issues. The recommendations tonight include adopting the budget, approving the GAN appropriations limit, and approving 2 personnel resolutions. This concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Henderson. Councilmember Jennings.
Great. Thank you very much, Director. I dare say this is one of the more interesting budgets we've ever had to sort through. So I noted in that there were budget cuts for salary, and I want to say thank you to the department's heads that are here and to the city manager. Those are not easy to take. The belt tightening is noticed and it's appreciated, and I know that you're working harder than you were and for less money, and that's just noted. That's by way of thank you. One thing that I noted in our budget session, I just want to point out again, is that the bulk of the CIP, meaning the Capital Improvement Plan funds, are going to Crown Valley Park, the building there. We approved that money last year. The $4 million has already been approved. That's a holdover because of the COVID-19 things. We still have work left to be wrapped up over there. And so this, because it crossed over a budget cycle, we have to bring it back again. So I think if we are honest with ourselves, our actual outlook is a little bit less dire than that seems on those capital improvement funds. We've set that aside. As we always do, that money was always intended to be spent. It was put in that account to be spent for this purpose, and we're now finally getting around to do that. So that's a bit of holdover. You know, I get that we have less money. We have made the very difficult choices of what to give up in that regard. We'll grow out of this. We are a financially stable city. We have every possible need taken care of. We have many, many wants taken care of, and we have all of our dreams baked right into the budget where it used to be. We will get back to where we were, without any doubt. We're just going to be more prudent about that. As I look around a room that everybody's still social distancing and we have these incredible plexiglass things up, I'm reminded that we're not through this yet, and we've got a lot left to do. And being smart and financially prudent and safe and secure is always our first priority. And we'll do that again. I'm very pleased with this budget. Most of my comments were wrapped up in the budget meeting, so I don't want to reiterate those since they haven't changed. But it'll be my pleasure to make a motion to approve this budget. I'd like to hear from the other colleagues, of course.
Councilmember Raines.
I do want to thank our staff and the hard, prudent work that you did to reduce the budget to where we've reduced it to. Obviously, we're making concessions moving forward, and we do have a 5-year outlook that is going to continue to be that way. Because of the situation, we are accessing some of our reserves for other capital improvement projects other than just the Crown Valley Park. And even though we normally aren't the city that does that, we are having to do that this time. And I just, I'm fine with approving this budget based on the current situation that we're in. However, for future planning, I would hope that that would not be something that we would have to look at again, and that we would be prudent that any extra money that comes in throughout the year is set aside for our unfunded pension liability, which will definitely be becoming more of an issue as the losses of our state and our pension liabilities grow. So with that, I pass it on. Thank you.
Councilmember Genoway.
Thank you, Mayor Davies. Thank you for the presentation. Once again, I appreciate all the work that went into this budget, and to make it, I can't stress enough how transparent this budget is, how any of our residents can look it up online and see exactly where their city funds are going. So thank you for that. And I want to be sure that our residents understand the sacrifices that our staff has made, and it shows our staff is all in. They are in for our city. They are taking the 2.5%. They're not getting the 2.5% increase. Our city manager at the very beginning, without us even asking, took a voluntary 5% pay cut reduction. So they are here for the city and for the residents. Those cuts were made. We are keeping level of services as close to where they were before. Hopefully our residents won't notice too much of a change. But we all know that's reality, that there are some changes. As far as I want to piggyback again onto Councilmember Raines' comments regarding the unfunded pension liability. And that is something that we have addressed for the last couple of years. And it took a couple of years to get that 115 trust set up, established, which we did last year. And at that time, we said when we had excess funds, we would be contributing to that. So please don't think your city council has forgotten about that, that we passed it once. That will be coming back to us when we can put some more dollars in there. But right now, this is an excellent budget. And again, our reserves are at a level that I think many other cities are envious of. So thank you to staff for all your hard work. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. All right, staff is recommending the City Council establish the position of Maintenance Service Manager, excuse me, and creates a salary range for that position of $9,518 to $11,898. The person to be selected for the position will be employed pursuant to an employment agreement that will contain standard employment terms covering fringe benefits that will include insurance, paid leave, and retirement as provided in Resolution number 2020-1313. And I believe I do have a motion. And I had a second. Second, great. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion moved. All right. We're going to move on to business council reports. Let's start with Council Member Genoway.
We got there fast. Okay. Just want to alert, as you know, I'm chair of the Orange County Public Library Advisory Board, and just want to be sure everybody knows that the curbside pickup is now available at our library. You could return your books and DVDs and other library materials starting last week in the book drop. When materials are returned, they're quarantined for 72 hours. So there's a lot of work taking place behind that book drop to get materials back out. But now, starting today is curbside pickup, and to reserve books, you just go online to ocpl.org. You can reserve books. I have a whole lot to pick up. They also have DVDs too. So we'll be doing some movie viewing in the Genoway household. But I know a lot of people are really excited that the library is back in that fashion. You know, I mentioned before that we've been having a national discussion and a community discussion. And as I hear and listen, I reflect on the fact that conversation and communication is a two-way process. And part of that two-way process requires that we listen. So I've been doing a lot of listening. And I also have a 29-year-old daughter who's working at home now. She's been home working from our house, and she has a lot to tell me, but I do a lot of listening. And all of us need to be active and engaged listeners. And also when we communicate, we have to understand that it's a two-way process, and not what is heard by the receiver of the communication is not always what we said or what we thought we said. So let's take it upon ourselves to assume that responsibility to make sure that the communication was what we had intended, and to work towards better understanding and collaboration for the benefit of everybody. I want to thank our city staff. You've continued to meet the needs of our community and serve our residents, even though work processes have changed frequently, and we've asked quite a bit of you. But thank you so much. You have the appreciation of your entire community. And thank you to our law enforcement and first responders. Each and every day, you know, you keep our city safe so that our residents can enjoy living in one of the safest cities that our country has to offer. And everyone, I want you to, you know, put that in the proper frame of mind, that our deputies, our law enforcement, our firefighters, all of our first responders, each and every day, they leave their families so that they can come to our city and to watch over our families. So you have our sincere gratitude. Thank you. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, deputies. Thank you. And that is it, Mayor Davies.
Councilmember Raines.
Thank you, Mayor Davies. One of the things that I do as a city council member is I represent our city on the Orange County Fire Authority Board. And we recently, last month, passed our budget there. And one of the things on that budget was our Station 49, which is on Golden Lantern. The floor has been sinking in that building, and so it was part of the budget, and they're going to be starting to make some improvements and repairing that. I don't know the timeline, but I just wanted to let you know that they are taking care of that. During that time, and even during the construction, there will not be any interruption in our fire safety or services. So we'll still be receiving the same quality service that we receive from our fire department. So I'm very grateful for that and happy to report that. I've been kind of quiet for the last few months, and I'm finally ready to say something. So I'm going to share a little bit about what's been going on and how it's affected not just myself, but many people are in my circle, and as I go into the community and I meet and talk. But the past 3 months have changed our lives. We've changed as a society. We've collectively joined to address the health of our community as we faced COVID-19. Many sacrificed, suffered, and some even lost their lives. The struggles of our communities, families, businesses, elderly, and as well as our disabled communities have been real. Some will not recover to a full normal again. As it's been not enough, if that was not enough, the murder of George Floyd set our country into an outrage that has brought about many emotions and many thoughts. As a public servant, I've prayed and worked alongside others to unite us as a community of diverse thoughts and opinions. Hearing your personal stories, how they've affected you, whether it be families losing loved ones that could not have a proper goodbye, sick people who have not been able to receive treatment, job losses, destruction of businesses and property for no fault of their own, and our public safety officers as well as public servants being threatened has been a tragedy to watch over and over. Today I'm reminded we all live in America where equal opportunity is offered. The American dream is still alive. We all have choices to do right or wrong. We've all felt pain and loss, yet we're resilient and we can rebound. If we want true peace and change, we must ask ourselves, do I take responsibility for my actions, or do I just shout, I have rights? Am I trustworthy, and have I earned trust, or do I just expect it? Do I show respect even when I may believe differently, or do I demand it? These are the questions I've been asking myself. I chose to take responsibility and stand up for the freedom of all Americans because that's who we are. And I ask that as a community, we begin our path to healing and peacefully respect our differences while we exist together for a better tomorrow. I thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to serve you.
Member Jennings.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councilman Raines. I'm normally the one who does the crying on the dais, so it's nice to at least be started by someone else. So thank you very much. That was very powerful. I appreciate that. You all elected us to do a few things, but the one thing that you absolutely elected us to do is to make sure that we thoughtfully consider a budget and pass one. And tonight we've done that. It has many pages. Tonight you saw and heard summaries, but that is only the tip of a very big iceberg that has taken months and months and months to prepare in a new and different way this year, which is, I want to echo Councilwoman Genoway's comments that it was infinitely more transparent than it ever has been, and it's been pretty transparent since I've been in touch with it. So it's easy to understand. It makes some sense. Our priorities are laid out in there. Our strategic plan is reflected in that, and that is a direct reflection of our residents. So I want to say congratulations to the staff tonight for putting that in front of us, but also congratulations to the people who put representatives here who yet again balanced your budget. And we are now going on 31 years of never, ever running a deficit and never, ever borrowing a single dime of money from anyone to make the city run. Find another city that can say it, and I'll give them some kudos as well. But Laguna Niguel gets this stuff right, and it starts at the people. They demand representatives that will do that for them. And I think in my history, I've been watching a lot of them. And it's not just this council, but all the councils that came before it that made those tough decisions and got this back to a balanced budget. Never has a council had this year to contend with, and all those many icebergs that we've been dealing with have caused us to write and rewrite and consider and reconsider each of the budget items, and they ended up in a place where we can be proud of this. A little bit of hair cutting along the way, and I don't have a lot of hair left to give, but it was a little tight. But this year we got it right again, and yet again we have zero debt. We have money in the bank, and we often are the financial envy of our peers, and I like that. I opined at some great length online, and I don't want to repeat everything that I said there because it's been fairly well thought out, but my thoughts are there if you want to look them up. You're exactly right, Councilwoman Raines. We are in a struggle of right versus wrong, and every decision that comes before us this year, isn't it strange how more stark the contrasts are between the decisions this year, the positions this year, the rancor this year. I think that there are some things that are objectively wrong. I thought that the death of Mr. Floyd was wrong, and the way that it was done was wrong, and it was unnecessary, and it's bringing change to a system that needed some change in that regard. And it's bringing justice to his family, and it's bringing rightful responsibility to the people that caused it. And to the extent we find that, I've been very overwhelmed and pleased by the law enforcement people in my life that have spoken up so boldly about how against that type of thing that they are. And that means a lot to us to know that the people that we trust, because I'm not out on the streets at night, and neither are you all, but they are. And when they are, they're doing the right thing. And we time and time again hear them report back to us on how difficult these circumstances are, not only on the circumstances themselves, but on these people as individuals. These are sometimes very, very difficult things that they handle. And I always make a point to ask how our deputies are doing, because sometimes they're not okay. Sometimes these are tough. And the fact that they recognize that is one of the things I think it humanizes that process. So there are some things that are objectively wrong in the world. But my goodness, if I stopped there, I'd be lost. We are the living embodiment of everything that can go right. We have a wonderful city. It's by no means perfect, but we're here trying to do the right thing. And every day I wake up thankful for all that we have, for a city and country to allow us to express ourselves, as so many have done over the past few weeks, in a way. And I'm thanking the people of Laguna Niguel for doing it respectfully. For exercising all of their constitutional rights in a way that allowed them to be heard, but allowed others to be safe, and for the process to actually create some change perhaps, or at least put change in the mind of people that need to make it. And that's okay. That's what we're for. A lot of people died trying to get those rights. And we are here watching that. So as we go on, I don't think we've fully realized where we're going to land yet. We don't know the answers to these questions yet. But I'm so thankful for the people that I sit around, and the people on this dais, and the people that work in this building, that are day after day trying to do the right thing. We hear you. We watch you. We understand your concerns, because we're living them too. And together we can do this. So our tomorrows be ever more bright, because we are trying to do this collectively. So thank you very much for all that you all do. And Mayor, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. As the city's representative on SCAG, I'm pleased to make two great announcements. The first one is we had a board meeting about 2 weeks ago or so, and by the majority of the vote, SCAG has decided to reduce our annual fees. So the cities that would be paying would be charged between $10,000 to $15,000. That annual fee to be reduced by 20%, and we are going to be receiving a formal letter from SCAG on that. And the second one, which is the biggest one, is on behalf of the SCAG board, we approved $638 billion with a B, not with M, Connect SoCal, AKA RTP, SCS budget on the federal side. And we are waiting for the next 60 days or so to vote upon on the state side, because of a lot of issues related to the housing element and a bunch of other things that we wanted to hammer out with the staff. So that's a great news. That means that we are guaranteed by the U.S. government that we are going to be receiving that funding, which is going to create jobs, economic vitality for 88 cities in Los Angeles County, 34 cities in Orange County, 19 cities in Riverside County, on and on. So then on behalf of the city, I sit on the TCA board. I'm very pleased to say that the $38 million Oso Parkway Bridge, which is right on our city border, is nearing completion and is expected to be complete later this summer. The project's improved safety and pedestrian access will benefit the Tesoro High School for generations to come, and TCA continues to work with project partners such as OCTA, Caltrans, RCTC to advance the $200 million 24191 Express Connector project. And on the final notes, like many of you, I'm deeply troubled and heartbroken by the killing of George Floyd. His death has sparked protests and demonstrations across the nation and the world. As an elected and appointed official for the past 25 years in this great city, along with all my colleagues, we wholeheartedly condemns any racism. And Laguna Niguel is as it was mentioned by my colleagues, is the embodiment of the American experiment, home to decency and acceptance. Each and every day we strive for a better tomorrow, for hope, for equal opportunity, and for prosperity. That's my whole report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. My voice is squeaky tonight. In regards to the budget, I just want to say a few things in regards to where our money goes. And we do a lot with our community. And I just want to kind of throw off a few of these here. A lot of the money is going to, we've got our library support. We have our Chamber of Commerce. We have our Humans Relationship. We have our Rotary Club. We have Mercy House Living Center, which helps with the homeless. We have harassment prevention training, Citizens Police Academy, Neighborhood Watch Program, youth safety programs and drug awareness, trauma intervention programs. There's a lot of great programs that we do in this community, which reaches out to all ages. So I think it's really important that people remember that a lot of that is in our budget as well. And I wanted to also talk about the CARE Act's funding. And we've got good news with that. We've been working hard. The program will be starting, well, actually the application should be out on Friday, I believe June 19th through June 24th. This is for nonprofits and this is for small businesses to apply. We were given, each city was given so much money. There was a total of $75 million that were given to the supervisors. Each district, ours being 5th district, received $15 million, and then it's being divided up by the cities by population. And what we'll be able to do is we'll have a separate category for nonprofit as well as we'll have for small businesses. So their application will be starting. We've got a great community director helping out with those applications. But if you are chosen, you have $10,000, which will be a grant. So we're really happy. It was going to be a loan, but we're able to make it a grant. So that's money you'll be able to get in your pocket. I know a lot of the small businesses right now are just, looking to even pay the rent for the next month or 2 months. So hopefully that'll be able to help them. There are a lot of different options right now for loans. You have the PPP loan, you have the disaster loan, and you have the small business loan. So getting a grant fund so that they don't have to pay something back and have more debt is great. So if you have any questions, please contact the city. And, as my colleagues and I were speaking, what happened to George Floyd was horrific. It should have never happened. And we're blessed that we've got an incredible police service that, they recognize, they respect the citizens here, and we all work together. And I want to thank, because we received lots of different emails, defunding, not defunding, safety first. And that is our priority. Number one, your safety is our priority. And your safety is your priority, whether you're in their house or you're on that corner, with a sign up there. We want to make sure that you're protected as well. So I thank all our officers for making sure that everyone that protested peacefully in our city were protected, because that was our number one priority. Great. With that, we're going to move on. Are we going to go with the city manager?
Yes, I have an update for you. I'm happy to let you know that tomorrow we're going to open up our pool. So reservation-based system, the dive team, the swim team can begin their practices with we have all the proper disinfecting and social distancing and all the new procedures. It is going to be reservation based, so I encourage everyone to go to our website for all the details in terms of our new guidelines and to make a reservation for the number to call. Also, next Monday, we're going to be opening up the skate park. So again, reservation-based system, we have to limit the number of people at one time, but please visit our website if anyone's interested. So we're excited to start to open things up again, and couldn't be happier that we get to open those services, and stay tuned for more as we get permission to do more going forward. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any other directors like to speak? Okay, at that, then we're going to go ahead and adjourn at pretty good. We'll go 7:55. Thank you.